Welcome to the Silver and Black Show. And this week's overview brought to you by Hawaiian Airlines. Jim and I get you ready for a matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I sit down with Hall of Famer Fred Biletnikoff, and head coach Jon Gruden joins Chris Townsend to break down some Coliseum memories. All that and more on the Silver and Black Show, starting right now.
That'll be fun. I don't know. I'll be curious to see what it's like. You know, never played out there. Obviously, it's like a historic venue. They've got great fans over there, so should be a lot of fun.
You know, it was always a very difficult place to play, you know, just from a fan standpoint. And we kind of went over that to try to describe to our players, I did that today, you know, the type of atmosphere that it's going to be. You know, the last game in the Oakland Coliseum, my first year there, we would warm up. I'd warm up the O-line, and I had a bunch of veteran guys. And we were in the corner of the end zone, and this guy was all over me. You know what I'm saying? I mean, all over me, to a point where the players were laughing. They're like, "You're gonna take that?" You know, now the players are trying to instigate me. It'll be a crazy atmosphere. I can't define crazy for you, but it'll be a crazy atmosphere.
Week 15, the final home game for the Raiders this season, and likely the last game at the Coliseum for the team. Welcome to the Silver and Black Show. As always, I'm your host, Nicole Zaloumis, alongside our two-time Super Bowl champion, Jim Plunkett. Jim, the Raiders welcome in a struggling Jags team, and they're not just losing, they're losing bad right now.
Yeah, it's very similar to what's happening to the Raiders right now. Both young teams, both not playing very well, very inconsistent, having trouble scoring points when they need to, and shutting down offenses has been a real struggle for both these football teams. So a very similar scenario going on between these two teams, but hopefully the home field advantage will help out.
Jim, what's not similar is their quarterback situation, because they start the season with their franchise QB, Nick Foles. They pay him a bunch of money, and he breaks his collarbone. So then you have Gardner Minshew, who comes in. And then Nick Foles, week 11, inserted back into the mix, and he didn't do very well. So now we're back to Gardner, the up and down for this team. How do you adjust?
Well, you find a guy who can be your guy for the rest of the season, and you're going to have to make a decision. Obviously, both of them have not played very well, and it's not a very good football team, granted. On the other side of the coin, you know, we have Derek Carr, who's been a little inconsistent, struggled the last few games, but he's our guy, and he's the quarterback, and I think that gives a little more continuity to the offense for the Raiders.
Jim, because you played this position, when you see them hand the ball to Gardner Minshew and he has some success, it's difficult when you hand the ball back to Nick Foles and he doesn't. So obviously they bench him at halftime, bring Gardner back in to finish out the season. What does that do for a quarterback's mindset, like a Nick Foles?
Well, you know, he's a young guy. I'm sure he's just happy to be on the field at any given time. And he did play well for a while, but, you know, obviously they're on that 5-game losing streak. And, you know, there's just going with the best guy that they feel can do the job right now, and you know they have no other choices.
I mean, is it that simple, especially when you pay $88 million, $50 million guaranteed to Foles?
Yeah. Well, but if you're being outplayed by a guy who doesn't make that kind of money, you know, it's just the way that it is. You know, you see over the years many top-line quarterbacks have been replaced by younger guys who seem to be playing better. You know, they've got more energy. They're making that team move down the field. And it happens, and this is another occasion where it does.
When you look at the Raiders and the Jaguars, both teams have struggled with injuries. Starting with the Jaguars here, 12 key players have missed time this year. Their injured reserve is currently the 4th largest in the league with 17 players.
Yeah, and we've had a few injuries as well, but you know that's going to slow anybody down, especially when you have a young football team. And we've had a lot of young players putting a lot of time in on both offensively and defensively for the Raiders, and you know, and they're going to be inconsistent as it's shown in their record. But you know, it's time to bear down. One last home game, a big home game for the Oakland fans and the city of Oakland. So you know, hopefully they're going to come out big and strong and ready to play.
All right, Jim. Well, coming up here on the Silver and Black Show, I sit down with Pro Football Hall of Famer Fred Biletnikoff as we take a trip down memory lane. But up next, head coach Jon Gruden sits down with Chris Townsend to break down some film.
Coach, this is going to be the last game at the Oakland Coliseum. I know how much this building means to you, and it's going to be a special moment taking on the Jaguars.
Yeah, it is. It's hard to believe, you know, that it's the last home game, first of all. But when you think about the last home game in the history of the Oakland Raiders, it is a lot to wrap your arms around. But got a lot of memories here at Townie. I remember just like yesterday, it was 1998, my first home game here in the Coliseum, and I never seen a place like it. First play of the game, you know what happened? I left 92 week. My good friend Napoleon Kaufman, did you know he went for 80 yards?
The minister.
My first play that I called at the Coliseum, you see how I like this place? Napoleon Kaufman to the house, 80 yards. Big win for the silver and black. And that's when I really first felt what a special place this is, the Oakland Coliseum.
Like 1998, I'm asking a lot of guys on our set. They were like in kindergarten or first grade, these guys. Yeah. 1998 back in the day.
Yeah, we put a new offense in, and Jeff George was a quarterback, and we had a go-to wideout named Timmy Brown. They had a big day, and what a day it was to celebrate, my first win as a head coach, obviously, but especially in the black hole.
Yeah, it was a special time because I actually did Coach Gruden's first radio interview back in the day, and so I remember 1998 back in those days, and what a special time it was when you came on with the Oakland Raiders.
Yeah, it was. It was a goal of mine to someday be a coach in the NFL and to have a chance to, be with the Raiders. My team as a kid growing up was, kind of a childhood dream, and to work for Al Davis and a storied franchise like this meant a lot to me then, and it means more to me now. But, like we say, some really great, memorable wins here. Here we are, Eric Allen picking off Vinny Testaverde of the Jets, taking it to the house, putting us in the playoffs in 2000. And, that third year, you just felt like we were on the cusp of doing something. We had some back-to-back draft classes. You felt the enthusiasm and the excitement and the confidence back in Oakland. Fans became more and more rabid and crazy. And, our team started winning. I think we won 12 games in our third year here, and it was a lot of fun. Rich Gannon and I were having a great time. We had some great receivers and a big offensive line. Andre Rison came to town, and we were on our way. We felt like we were on our way here.
Didn't you promise a tattoo back in the day?
Yeah, I did.
Bad Moon Rising?
I told Rison if we made the playoffs, I'll get a tattoo. And Bad Moon, if you're listening, I owe you a tattoo, brother. But, Rich Gannon helped us win our first AFC West title in a few years, and he had a lot of contributors. I don't know if you remember much of Gannon's play, but there wasn't a time we picked up the stat sheet and he didn't have 8 or 9 different receivers. We threw it to everybody, and he completed a lot of passes and really did a great job for us.
This is the reason you came back. These memories is why you came back.
Yeah, it's the only reason I came back, and, I don't feel real good today. I haven't slept much, the last few weeks in particular, but we owe these fans a great effort. Can't make any promises what's going to happen in the game on the scoreboard. But what we can promise while we're putting the pieces together here is one heck of an effort that fans can appreciate and can look forward to in the future. And that's what being a Raider is all about. But how about Jerry Rice in the 2001 wild card? How about grabbing Jerry Rice from across the street and bringing him into Oakland? Yeah. And the guy goes berserk. 9 catches, 190 yards.
They thought he was done.
They thought he was done.
Yeah.
And, hell, I bet if I called Jerry and Charlie Garner, they'd come out and help me tomorrow afternoon if we need it. But just some great memories, Townie, and we got to create some more for the Raiders in the future. But like I said, it's really important that we lay down a great effort for our fans and leave them with something to remember us by.
When you came back and lit the torch for Al Davis, what did that mean to you?
Well, it meant a lot. Just because of the history of the Raiders, what Al Davis stood for and stands for still today, what that torch means, just to be, associated with the greats, Biletnikoffs, the Howie Longs, the Willie Browns, the Cliff Branch, Ted Hendricks, the guys that have signed the torch before me, and the guys that will sign the torch after me. That's a great feeling, a great accomplishment in my career as a person and as a coach, and it was fun sharing it with these fans too.
It was a great moment.
Yeah, sure was. Sure was. Some of my best moments have been in the stadium. Now, I've had some tough moments, but these fans have stayed with me, and I'm going to stay with them too. It's a great, I think, relationship, and like I said, we owe them one more great effort.
And we're going to get that on Sunday. Can't wait, Coach. Let's
right.
go out and get a W.
All right, man. Good to see you, Townie.
Once a Raider, always a Raider. Nobody epitomizes that more than Hall of Famer Fred Biletnikoff. From player to coach, Freddie B has been part of this organization for over 5 decades. I sat down with a Raiders legend to find out what it all means. I'm sitting with a Pro Football Hall of Famer, Super Bowl MVP, and a man that really epitomizes what it means to be a Raider on and off the field. We go back to 1965, and you were selected by the Raiders in the draft, played 14 seasons. What does it mean to you to represent the silver and black like you do?
It means everything. And what Al liked, he liked toughness in people, and that's what our team was. It was just a bunch of tough guys from tough backgrounds, guys that were always the underdog in their life, and he loved that. And that's what I liked about the Raiders, because when you're that type of guy, you just fit in automatically. You're like a piece to the puzzle, and that's how we were as a team for years, and that's what I liked. It was a great team concept all my 14 years. It never changed.
Let's go back to when you were a little guy, your youth. What inspired you to play football, or was there someone that inspired you?
At that time, you didn't have all these organized programs. You played in a yard somewhere all the time. So, you could be the younger guy, the guy sort of in the middle, and then you're always playing with older guys mixed in. My brother Ken was a good influence on me because he was a great athlete.
Older brother?
Yeah, my older brother. And you had those guys that you were always playing against them.
So now let's fast forward to your playing days here. You were a favorite target of Darryl LaMonica and Ken Stabler. Let's start with Darryl. Your connection with him, what was that like?
Our quarterbacks back then never told us how to run routes, not as like it is today. All the quarterbacks had to know was if you were supposed to be in a certain area at the end of your route, that they didn't care how you got there.
Just be there.
Just be there, and that's the ball's going to be there. Yeah, so it was like, telling Darryl, a lot of times, because Darryl loves to coach you all the time, Darryl, don't worry how I get there, just I'll be there. All right. And Kenny knew I was going to be there.
Right.
And so that was the difference with me with each of them, not negatively, positively. And Kenny, had obviously two different quarterbacks, had a great touch. Darryl liked to get the ball in there a little quicker, a little tougher, a little harder. And Kenny had a little better anticipation of where you're going to end up at. So the ball was in the air a lot before you even turned around. So you had to be ready and prepared to catch the ball.
Now, after your playing days, you joined the Raiders coaching staff for 18 seasons. Not every player can coach. You clearly could. You also coached with Jon Gruden. What made you want to join the coaching ranks?
I just enjoyed it. I was very fortunate in all the years coaching with the Raiders that I had some great players.
Fun to watch, fun to coach.
Oh, fun to watch, fun to coach. And to have guys like Timmy Brown for years, because Timmy, with me, he was not only a player, but he was somebody that really helped me along as a coach. Tried to get me to quit cussing so much, but I don't know how much he accomplished that, but he impressed me. And then being able to be a guy around guys like Willie Gault, Mervin Fernandez, you see Willie Gault run, you go, my God, coming from Chicago, won a Super Bowl, and now he's with us, and seeing him run by guys. And then you have a guy like Mervin Fernandez, from San Jose State, a 7-foot high jumper, but very powerful, and to see that, and then we'd have, guys like James Lofton, then James Jett playing with us and the speed he had, and it just, being able to work with those guys, it was impressive all that period of time because they had a style to them, and I loved it.
Your first experience coaching with Jon Gruden, or his first experience. What do you see? Yeah, what do you see in Gruden that you saw back then now?
The way his personality was then, his intensity, his approach out on the field, with all the players, it hasn't changed one bit. He expects you to carry a lot of responsibility, because Jon likes to get out there and get plays called and see guys perform, and get the things in, get personnel groupings in, get the plays in, so everybody knows what they're doing. And that's how Jon approaches it. And I loved coaching for Jon, because he had that attitude. It was the type of attitude that I was brought up in when I first started playing football.
The Raider family lost a couple legends who you played with in Willie Brown and Cliff Branch. What are some fond memories that you have, starting with Willie?
Willie, well, you never wanted to have to be in training camp and be on Willie's side, okay? Because he was going to beat you up, all right? But Willie was a dominating player, very impressive. And I always used to tease him, that interception he had in the Super Bowl, and I ran it back. And it's always on a highlight. Whenever we're at an event and they show it, so I go, the game was already over, But that interception didn't mean anything, just to jerk him around, But I had a good rapport with Willie, and I love Willie because just the way he was as a person off the field and how he was as a player, he was fantastic.
And how about Cliff?
Cliff, we had a special relationship that, from when he first started and, until we had our period of time when I finally got let go, and Cliff continued on, which he had great years after that, especially Super Bowls. And it was great to see Cliff not only as a close friend, but really develop into a ball player that no one thought that he could. Just bring him in and just let him run straight. Well, Cliff really worked at it. He got to be a very, very dangerous receiver.
When you look at the Oakland Coliseum, all the history there, the memories, is there one that stands out to you?
Just being able to be at that stadium, remembering being in that locker room and going through that tunnel and going out to the field, seeing the people in a black hole and the people when you're coming out that, you've seen are hanging over the railings and all that. And you get out there and it's very emotional because people actually love you guys.
Yeah.
And then, to be able to go out there and perform and win some of the games that we had in that stadium, we're talking about, years ago when Darryl was playing in '67, we won a championship game here. We won 40-7. The place is going crazy. And then we had with Clarence catch that big ball and see the hands, they go crazy. We had the Heidi game when we beat the Jets, when all of a sudden everything we just went against the Jets and we just ended up blowing them out. It just goes on and on and on about the games that you played. For years, the impressive thing with that stadium is every media person, every person involved in any type of media relations, newspaper, whatever, radio, whatever they do, they all want to be here at this Oakland Coliseum because that was like the mecca of football, and especially when we had Monday night games here, just so electrifying. So, you had Howard Cosell and all those guys, who were always against us, being able to shove it up
it's
to
okay.
them.
Chip on your shoulder.
Yeah, just brush it off a little bit, To be part of that is amazing. And then thinking back when I first came into the league and guys like I started with Tom Flores as the quarterback and having guys that were there that were cast off from the NFL because it was the NFL, AFL still at that time, and seeing the guys that got let go by the NFL that Al brought in and how hard those guys worked, and they were just tough guys, and then going and having success and thinking about, because I was young enough and got old enough, where, your thoughts go back to them too. Mm-hmm. How it was when I first started with them, how a lot of those guys took care of me, and that kind of just spun off into the rest of the team. And that's how I was my career.
That was incredible, man. It was against a rival. The game ended up going into overtime. It was a night game, and just the way the team battled, the way the team fought, was extra special. But then, after the game, to be able to address the fans, have the little Gatorade bath of water or whatever it was, man, was pretty cool. To have your teammates around after the game, just in appreciation of, what they thought of me, as a player and as a teammate.
It will be an emotional game on Sunday as the Raiders are likely playing their last game ever at the Oakland Coliseum. Welcome back to the Silver and Black Show. Jim, I know that you've had a lot of memories at the Coliseum and that the list is hard to narrow, but I'm going to put you on the hot seat here. Give me your top 3 memories.
Okay, before I give you the top 3, I just want to give a shout out to the fans. They've been tremendous over all these many years when I was playing and to this day. So a shout out to them. And for memories, I played my very first start for the Raiders against the San Diego Chargers, against Dan Fouts and company and all the wide receivers they had, and I was able to come out on top, and it was the first time I'd played in about 2 years. So that was certainly a big moment in my career here with the Raiders here in Oakland. And in Miami, having lost to Don Shula and so many times in Miami and coming out and knocking them off, doing a great run for the Raiders after we started off the season 2-3. And last but not least, playing the Houston Oilers in my very first playoff game after 12 years in the NFL. So
Is that top on your list, number one?
I wouldn't say it was number one, but certainly my first playoff game.
Do you still remember the emotions, like going through the tunnel? Is it vivid for you?
It is, you know, and I wanted so much not to let down my teammates, you
Sure.
know, and my coaches. And so, you know, I stepped out there concentrating, doing all the right things, not making mistakes, and fortunately that's the way it turned out.
Well, my memories aren't as legendary, but I did start my career at the Coliseum as well as an intern. I grew up here rooting for this team in the Bay Area, went to college locally, and I just remember holding a mic and it's sheets of rain pouring down on me. We were playing the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'm still here. So it was obviously a good start to my career, but I will, I think, shed a tear when I think back to the Oakland Coliseum and what it's done for my career as well.
Yeah, it's been very exciting here playing in the city of Oakland.
All right, Jim. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Silver and Black Show. On behalf of Fred Biletnikoff, Jim Plunkett, and all of us here at Silver and Black Productions, thanks for watching, and go Raiders.